The morning heat was already pressing against the canvas walls of the base camp when Sarah Kim crawled from her tent. 6 weeks into her summer internship with the Utah Museum of Natural History, and despite sand in every zipper, sunburn along the rim of her safety glasses, and the ever-present smell of plaster and acetone, she still felt a thrill every time she remembered she was here, in the field, not merely labeling bones in a windowless prep lab. The dig lay in a side canyon of the Escalante River, a maze of rose-colored sandstone spires and narrow slots that swallowed cell signals and sometimes careless hikers. Their crew, led by Dr. Abigail Hollenbeck, was excavating a fragmentary hadrosaur skeleton a half-mile from camp. Sarah had been assigned a solo side project, mapping scattered bone fragments exposed by a recent monsoon washout farther up the arroyo. It was grunt work, but she loved the solitude, the way each shard of fossil hinted at worlds underfoot. She filled her canteen, packed a GPS unit, a bright yellow field notebook, and the little paintbrush she used for delicate uncovering. At the edge of camp, volunteer John Vargas, retired firefighter, offered her a granola bar. "Slot canyons get sketchy this time of year," he warned. "Sky looks clear, but storms up north can send a wall of water faster than you can scramble." "I'll keep an ear out," Sarah promised, tapping her radio. He tugged an invisible forelock in farewell. The arroyo was still in morning shade, smells of wet clay lingering from last week's flooding. Sarah's boots left crisp prints on the damp sediment as she zigzagged between driftwood piles, searching for the rust-black glint of bone. An hour in, near a sandstone alcove, she spotted a concentration. A plate of cracked vertebrae, half a jaw with 2 teeth, several weathered ribs. She crouched, brushing loose silt, tagging each piece with neon pink flagging tape. Then she saw it, just beyond the scattered ribs. 4 objects laid on a flat mudstone slab. Not random scatter, but deliberate alignment. Letters. Each letter was formed from fossil fragments, a curved femoral head for the curve of the H, a slender metatarsal and 2 phalanges for the E, a ridge of neural spines shaped into an L, and a collection of smaller shards arranged into a P. Sarah stared, heart thudding. It had to be a prank, right? Veterans hazing the intern, but pranks cost time. And out here, time was plastered jackets, grant deadlines, publication credit. Dr. Hollenbeck ran a tight ship. No one would waste half a day lugging fossils into place. She toggled her radio. Static. The walls of the side canyon were too sheer. She jogged upstream until signal bars flickered, then thumbed the transmit button. "Base, this is Sarah. I've found something. Fossils arranged to spell HELP." She swallowed. "It looks intentional." A pause, then Dr. Hollenbeck's calm alto. "Confirm you said help? Somebody's idea of a joke?" "I don't think so. They're big fragments, heavy. Some match the hadrosaur quarry, others don't, and the mud layer under them hasn't dried the same as the surrounding surface. They were placed maybe yesterday, overnight." Another voice broke in. "Camp Logistics Tech Eric Ung. We took a head count at breakfast. Everyone's present. Hollenbeck again. Sarah marked the location. Photograph everything. We'll send John up with you." Sarah kept her voice steady. "Copy." As she hiked back toward better reception, something glinted between junipers and anodized aluminum. She parted the branches. A handheld GPS receiver lay there, its screen spider-cracked, flecks of dry blood on the rubber edge. The lanyard's clip carried a rental barcode, Escators 71. Sarah snapped photos, bagged the device in a specimen sleeve, and jogged a half-mile to meet John. He lumbered into view, broad shoulders dwarfing a dusty camelback. "Show me?" he asked. Together, they returned to the fossil letters. John squatted, brushing a thumb across the femoral head. "This is deliberate, all right." He surveyed the canyon walls, eyes narrowing. "Let's see if we have footprints." They did faint heel dents leading deeper into the slot. 2 sets, Sarah guessed. One with narrow treads like trail runners, another indistinct. The second set vanished after 20 yards, erased by sand slumps, but the runner prints continued. Sarah's radio crackled. "Crew meeting at camp in 30. Bring the GPS unit," Hollenbeck instructed. "And don't wander far." Sarah glanced at John. He muttered, "Figures," yet he looked restless, like a spring coiled. They photographed, measured and tagged the help array, then hustled back. The sun was overhead when they reached base. Everyone assembled in the shade of the mess tent. Graduate students, volunteers, the cook, and Lorraine Henry, the Bureau of Land Management ranger who visited weekly. Hollenbeck held the broken GPS between latex-gloved fingers. "Escator's guided hike, signed out yesterday morning," the ranger said. "Single client, a German tourist named Isabel Krucker. According to their tracker, she was due back last night, never checked in. Her guide, a new hire, Dylan Shaw, was en route, exploring a promising fossil wash." "That's poaching," muttered grad student Will Tuttle. Lorraine lifted a hand for quiet. "We don't know what happened," she said. "But the help message suggests Ms. Kruger, Mr. Shaw, or both are in trouble. Search and rescue is mobilizing, but they're 2 hours out. Afternoon thunderstorms forecast at 20%. She nodded toward Sarah. "You found the first solid clue. We'll need you and whoever else Dr. Hollenbeck designates to lead us to that site." Dr. Hollenbeck addressed the group. "The rest of you secure camp and protect the quarry. Will, Tiffany, you're in charge here. Sarah, John, Eric and I will guide Ranger Henry to the location and follow any trail from there." Sarah's pulse drummed. She was being included, not sidelined. John clapped her shoulder. "Let's pack rescue gear." Within 15 minutes, they loaded rope, mylar blankets, a med kit, climbing helmets, and 2 full water jugs. Lorraine carried a sat phone linked to the sheriff. They set out at a fast clip, sand puffing from under boots. Clouds stacked on the western horizon. At the help site, Eric lashed a reflective panel to a juniper so helicopter crews could spot the marker later. Lorraine photographed the boot prints, radioing dimensions to search teams. Then they headed into the narrow gorge where the tracks continued. After 2 bends, the canyon pinched to less than 4 feet wide. Sunlight bounced off white Navajo sandstone, turning the slot into a fluorescent oven. The runner prints deepened in damp patches, then abruptly stopped at a dry pour-off, a 10-foot drop into a darker corridor. John peered over the lip. "See scuff marks. Someone slid, maybe jumped." Eric uncoiled rope. "I'll anchor." He set a friction wrap around a jammed boulder, tossed the line. Sarah descended first, boots searching step-like clefts. At the base, she scanned the floor. More runner prints. One streaked with a drag mark, as if the person had slipped, caught themselves, kept moving. She reached for her canteen and froze. A low moan echoed from downstream. "Hello?" she called. Another moan, weak but definite. Lorraine descended next, hand instinctively on her holster, though the only threat here was dehydration. Sarah and Lorraine hurried forward, navigating an S-curve until the slot widened into a vaulted chamber lit by a skylight. There, wedged against fallen chockstones, lay a figure in a neon-orange helmet. The missing guide, Dylan Shaw. His right leg twisted unnaturally. His forearm was bound with a length of climbing tape, blood soaking through. He looked up, eyes shocked and unfocused. "Isabel?" "Cave in. Farther in." His voice cracked. "I left the message. Fossils. Hoped someone would. She's still alive." Sarah knelt, offering water. Dylan gulped, then gasped at the movement. Lorraine began a rapid assessment. Open tib-fib fracture, possible internal bleeding. "Can you radio her location?" Sarah asked. "Slot splits, left branch, crawl space, collapsed." He grimaced. "She can't move. I dug till it shifted, thought I'd get help." John and Eric arrived. took in the scene. Hollenbeck's voice echoed above them, still on rope. Dylan's pulse was thready. Moving him alone risked worsening the fracture. Lorraine contacted the county SAR dispatcher by sat phone. ETA 1 hour, plus paramedics. Thunder rumbled faintly. John met Sarah's eyes. If the tourists farther in and storms hit, a flash flood will fill this slot. We have maybe 90 minutes tops before runoff. Lorraine shut her phone. Rescue team says do not proceed if conditions threaten. But if we wait, she drowns. Her jaw worked, making the decision before speaking it aloud. Dr. Hollenbeck, you and Eric stabilized Mr. Shaw. John and Sarah, you with me. We'll locate Miss Kruger, evaluate extraction possibilities. We move fast. She looked at Sarah. You found the first clue you keep tracking. Sarah swallowed, nodded, clicked on a headlamp, though daylight still pooled over. The three pushed on. After 20 yards, the slot narrowed. Sarah examined the floor. A smear of dark mud, faint handprints, leading to the left branch. They slithered sideways through a crack barely shoulder-wide. Sandstone rasped backpack fabric. Helmet rims scraped rock. The air cooled, damp, smelling of iron and clay. Inside, the ceiling dropped. They had to crouch, then crawl. Ahead, a beam of light flickered. Sarah's lamp reflecting off something metallic. A narrow aluminium water bottle lay crushed, polka-dotted with blood. Next to it, gouges in the sand showed frantic digging. Lorraine tested the ceiling with a knuckle. Recent collapse. See how the blocks still ooze moisture. She looked at John. Think we can shift any? He frowned. Maybe a small opening, but we have to be sure we don't bring the whole roof down. Sarah knelt by a gap where a slab leaned against the wall, leaving a triangular void large enough to thread an arm. She called softly into the darkness, first in English, then in German. Thanks to undergraduate electives. Isabel, kann Sie mich hören? Wir sind hier, zu helfen. Silence, then a faint scrape. A voice, reedy, responded, Ich bin here. Water? She's alive. Sarah's heart surged. She squeezed her hand through the gap, gripping air. Water is coming. Kannten Sie durch? John unpacked a folding entrenching tool, tested the debris. If we remove this keystone block, space might open enough for a squeeze. He eyed the overhead fissures, balancing risks. Thunder boomed louder, closer. Dust sifted from hairline cracks. Lorraine cursed, clocks ticking. They rigged a small pulley with accessory cord anchored to a nub of sandstone. John, muscles bunching, applied force. The triangular slab shifted an inch, then another. A sudden pop and the slab slid, enlarging the hole. Cool air flowed from the chamber beyond. Sarah, wiry and smallest of the three, volunteered to go in. She removed her helmet to fit, wrapped a bandana around her headlamp and knot of hair, then slithered flat on her belly. The rock scraped her shoulder blades. Sand filled her boots. 15 feet in, the passage opened high enough to crouch. She lifted her headlamp. Isabel Kroger sat propped against a boulder, left arm pinned under a tombstone-sized slab. Her face grey with powder, lips cracked, dried blood streaked her temple. She managed a wan smile at Sarah's appearance. Sarah crawled to her, offered water from a soft flask. Isabel drank, coughing. Dylan, she croaked. Alive but injured. Rescue team on the way. Sarah studied the slab. It wedged at 2 contact points. Talking it might free her, but shift the wrong way and it would crush her chest. She radioed Lorraine through the gap, describing the geometry. John relayed he had a small jack and inflatable air bladder meant for vehicle extraction, part of his firefighter kit. If they tunneled the entrance wider, he might squeeze the equipment through. Sarah turned back to Isabel, kept her talking. Bibic triage, gauge lucidity. Isabel worked as a pediatric nurse in Hamburg, was visiting U.S. national parks alone, booked a fossil day tour on a whim. Dylan had pointed out exposures, decided to scout a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The ground trembled, the ceiling split. Isabel had tried to drag him clear, but he insisted she save herself, crawl toward daylight and signal for help. In the scramble, the slab slammed down. Sarah's radio crackled. John's voice. Entrance widened, sending bladder kit. Moments later, a flat rubber pouch slid into the chamber, attached to a foot-long hose. Sarah positioned it under the slab's edge, while Lorraine fed in a small co-pocket canister. The bladder inflated, lifting the slab half an inch, just enough to slide a rounded chalkstone as a support. Another inflation lifted it farther. Isabel whimpered as pins and needles sensation returned to her trapped arm. Sirens wailed faintly above the canyon, echoing like ghosts. Rain pattered somewhere distant, hushed whisper on sandstone. The slab rose 2 inches, then halted. Sarah wedged another rock, repeated. Sweat stung her dust-coated eyes. Over radio, Hollenbeck warned, monitors upstream show rising water. 15 minutes till possible flood. Sarah met Isabel's gaze. Jetzt oder nie, she whispered. Now or never. She deflated the bladder slightly to create slack, then pulled Isabel's arm carefully outward. The limb came free, angry purple but intact. Isabel gasped, tears streaking mud from her cheeks. Can you crawl? Sarah asked. I think. Yes. Sarah guided her to the passage. Lorraine and John awaited at the other side, arms extended. Thunder cracked. Light flickered. Suddenly a gust roared through the slot, carrying cold, damp air. The flood's front. John hauled Isabel through. Sarah followed, helmet scraping. They half-carried, half-dragged her back to Dylan's alcove. There, Dr. Hollenbeck and Eric had splintered his leg with field batons. Ivy started. His eyes widened with relief on seeing Isabel, but the roar of water grew. Flash flood, Lorraine shouted. Up the wall, now! Shelves pocked the sandstone several feet up. John and Eric hoisted Isabel onto one, anchoring her harness to a cam wedged in a crack. Sarah clipped a daisy chain to a piton John hammered. Dr. Hollenbeck secured Dylan, raising him inches above the floor. The slot's walls were too wide for stemming, but alcoves existed above head height. The first surge arrived. A murky torrent, sweeping driftwood, foaming knee-high within seconds. Sarah felt the shock of cold through her boots before scrambling to her perch. Water rose to her calves, then thighs. She braced, eyes on Isabel's white knuckles clutching the rope. Minutes felt like hours. The water peaked at mid-chest height on Dylan's dangling boots, then stabilized, churning with silt. Sarah's arms trembled from gripping the anchor. She forced slow breaths, heartbeat sinking with the roar. Another boom, this time aerial. A helicopter rotor thwacked overhead. A search and rescue crew had arrived. Ropes unfurled from the skylight aperture. Headlamps pierced dust. Rescuers descended, swift as spiders, voices practiced calm. Isabel was lifted first, her harness clipped to a haul line disappearing toward daylight. Dylan followed on a basket stretcher, paramedic monitoring vitals. The water receded almost as fast as it had risen, leaving slick mud. By the time Sarah and the original team were hauled out, evening light burned copper across storm clouds. Topside, the world looked impossibly vast after hours in stone wombs. Emergency vehicles dotted the slick rock. A ranger offered Sarah a blanket that immediately soaked with rain. She glanced back at the canyon mouth, water still gushing. John nudged her. Good tracking today, kiddo. Fossils won't complain we borrowed 'em. Sarah allowed a tired laugh, though the image of those bones arranged in a plea would linger. Dr. Hollenbeck approached, rainwater streaming from her brimmed hat. Excellent field judgment, Sarah. You saved 2 lives. Paperwork will be a nightmare, but the museum owes you. Sarah shook her head. I just followed the trail. Science and rescue both start with observation, Hollenbeck said. Remember that. An ambulance door slammed. Isabel, arm bandaged, met Sarah's eyes through the window, mouthed "Danke." The vehicle pulled away, tail lights smearing red in the wet dusk. Lightning stitched the horizon. Camp generators hummed. Volunteers hurried to cover plaster jackets from the rain. Sarah's body ached, but inside she felt light. The kind of light that fills you after a discovery, only amplified. This wasn't merely unearthing bones of creatures long dead. It was proof that the skills of a paleontologist, keen eyes, patience, pattern recognition, could reach across millions of years and also save someone breathing here and now. Later that night, after statements to the sheriff and lukewarm instant noodles, she sat on a boulder overlooking the calm, newly scoured wash. Stars erupted as clouds drifted east. Somewhere under that starlight lay shattered dinosaur bones, some returned to their original scatter by the flood, others still spelling, perhaps broken apart now, help. The message had been temporary, but it had done its job. In the morning they would collect the displaced fossils, document disturbance, maybe discover new fragments revealed by the torrent. Nothing in the desert stayed still. Sarah tightened her jacket, smiled into the cool night, and imagined a future dig crew stumbling upon a curious arrangement of ancient vertebrae that spelled not help, but hello, placed by someone paying quiet homage to the day-old bones, saved living hearts.